Hare Krishna. Thanks for joining again. And today we learn or hear about how the art of conquering a man's heart and how to have a peaceful and fulfilling home is being cultivated, passed down from one generation to the other. And I think the easiest way is actually this time a romantic approach. When we just imagine typical village life to the best of our abilities, because we don't really know how village life works, right? Especially when we grew up in cities and so on. We don't have many relationships. But in a village, everyone knows everyone. Everyone almost is somehow related to someone else, to everyone else, right? That's classical village life. Say there's a village of 500, no, that's a big village probably. To say there are a couple of hundred people in a village. 200, 300, yeah? Say 100 families, whatever. There will be so many relationships, right? There are aunties, cousins, grandmothers, great aunties, the whole lot is there. Right? And almost every weekend there will be some festival, some birthday party, some birth, some marriage, something will go on. Certainly almost every weekend, or maybe even more than once a week. The men are out in the field. Let's really do it romantic. And the ladies, they are closer to the house, taking care of the children, doing the household affairs. And how do? They do it together. They join up. They're not doing their chores alone. They go together washing, doing the washing, the laundry. They pack their baskets, go to the pump or go to the river and wash the clothes together. And what are they doing? They're talking. What are they talking about? Relationships. Husband, wife, children, education. Those things they're talking about. And who's there? Is it just the mothers and the children are at home? No, the girls come with, the children come with the mothers. Whatever the mothers do, the children follow. The older children maybe not. Maybe sometimes the older siblings take care of the younger ones, depending. But the children are around. The young daughters are around. The young boys are around as well. And what do they hear? They hear what the older ladies are talking. Say you grow up as a girl in a village like this, where, on the weekends there are parties, village festivals, birthday parties. What are the ladies doing? They're cooking together. Not just the mother and maybe the grandmother. No, all the aunties, they all come together. They all help. The young girls help as well. They're trained up to cook. Right? And it's fun. They're laughing. They're talking about so many things. And it's all, not all, but probably a big part is all about relationships. If you grow up as a young girl in the village, what do you hear? Everything about relationships, everything which you need to know later on when you are married. And you may see your older cousin, your older sister, your younger aunt, not younger than you, but your young auntie getting married when you were a little girl. And then on those festival days and those cookings, events or whatever chores been done together. Your older sister or your cousin or your auntie. They're complaining about their husband and this and that. My husband this, my husband that. And then your mother or your grandmother or your older aunties or whoever is around, they kind of calm that lady down. They're the nurses for the false ego, right? So they hear the stories. Oh, don't worry, don't worry. The first 10 years of your marriage, it's yes, Pati, yes, Prabhu, yes, Pati, yes, Prabhu. But then the rest of your life, it will be yes, Devi, yes, Devi, yes, Devi. Once his heart is conquered, it's conquered. Right? And so they will hear the stories about how their grandmother dealt with their husband, what they went through, and so on, encouraging the girl, just stick with it, just be patient, just do your duties, just hang on, hang in, right? Hang in. And then by the time that young girl is grown up and is about to marry herself, she's seen all that support. And she may already see the result of the marriage, of how her sister or her auntie or her cousin applied herself to the marriage. And the problems may be solved, and she's much and much more happy. So she sees that the support, all those stories, all those secrets given by the elders, by the mother, by the grandmother, by the great-grandmother, by the aunties, and so on. They give the support, and it works. That's what they learn. That's what young children learn in the village, in a romantic sense. They see the support, they learn that it works. They see the struggles of the older sister, and they then see the struggle is less. If she follows the advice, if she accepts the encouragement of the older ladies. That's parampara. And it's all done in stories, in experience, in sharing your own experiences. So it doesn't mean there's no confidentiality. Let's be clear in that. And that's also an aspect of village life. Gossiping is dangerous. But no. You share your own story. You can reveal confidentially your troubles. Maybe the mother sends you, where you should go? You should go to auntie such and such. And tell her and ask her about such and such story. She can tell it better than I can. So you go to her. If she doesn't want to tell you, I can tell. Because every story which is told is public good. But you tell your own story, not someone else's story. But once you tell your story, it becomes public good, and others share that story in the proper context, in the proper situation. To what? Uplift others who struggle. Other young girls who struggle maybe with the same situation. But confidentiality is still there. You're not, you know what such and such just told me? And then the gossip goes around. No, that's destroying everything. But it's the same propensity. Instead of talking about others, you talk about yourself, your experience, not to just be in the center of attention, but to uplift others, to help others, to inspire others, to be the nurse to others, to other girls, to other women. And so you have a whole repertoire of stories dealing with different aspects of men-women mechanics, relationships. Not just men-women, but also with raising children and so on. So anything you need to know, ladies, share. And there's a support network there, naturally. Now, obviously, especially in the West, we don't have that. We don't even understand how much it is needed. So we all struggle by ourselves. And what is the advice? If it doesn't work, just get divorced. No. But that's how we don't have the knowledge. We don't have the support in the West. But this is essential to be successful in the Grihasta Ashram. And that success actually depends on the lady knowing the art. Because her energy is so much more powerful. Her energy is so much more powerful. I cannot say that often enough. It's not all up to the lady. The man does his best to support, especially Nowadays we have to do the best to support, because we're just so far away from that. And we will not get there in this lifetime. Don't get me wrong. It's impossible to establish within this lifetime. But over generations, we should want to make it easier for our children to have a fulfilled married life. But that means we have to understand the mechanics. We have to understand how it works and just break that cycle, that vicious cycle which just keeps us in. Oh, that's not fair. Again, it's not about blaming this one, that one. Oh my God, it doesn't stop like that. No, we have to share what works and what's not working. And probably nowadays we have more stories of how it is not working. And sometimes we may have stories which show how it is working. And those stories, they're much more powerful than the stories which don't work. But nevertheless, if the stories are there, well, I did that and I did that didn't work, so please don't be like me. Don't waste 5 years like that and be just frustrated. Just do it differently. We may not accept it. Say, girl doesn't accept that advice and just does it anyway. But then she remembers, oh, wait a minute, I'm just exactly as frustrated as my auntie or as someone else was telling me. And it's not working, and let's stop. Let's try something else. You may be able to break that vicious cycle earlier with a negative story, but with a positive story, and you see the other person happy, it's working. You take that advice much more eagerly, because you see it's working. Whereas, well, if you know what's not working, you still haven't figured out what's working. Right? But that's parampara, if you want, from generation to generation will be transmitted. And obviously, we have a problem with that in the West. We don't have even much extended family. Personally, I don't. My wife's family is a bit more, family in the extended sense. It's all about family, bodily relations. But we don't have that so much in the West anymore. It's all just the core family. One of the parents, 2 children and a dog or something. That's family for most people in the West. It's very sad. So there's nothing there. And so we struggle as devotees when we come into that to Krishna consciousness and want to develop proper human behavior, that we don't have much support. So we have to create that support artificially. What does it mean? It's not the family members, it's not the village, but we have senior devotees, mentorship, all those things, right? And it's so hard, mentorship is a whole different topic, but it's so hard for us to even take guidance because we're so puffed up and think we can all do it ourselves. No, we can't. We have to hear proper advice. And only if we have, we can then, as ladies, we actually have to arrange some, artificial, if you so want, extended family, where the older ladies who went through marriage, give guidance and mentorship to the younger, where ladies have a forum to exchange, but then get advice according to spiritual culture, according to reality, to how the mechanics work, not to ideology. You may call someone a friend, but then your friend advises you, just get divorced. No, it's your greatest enemy. Such advice is damaging. It will discourage, it will destroy any attempt of doing it in the proper way. Obviously, it means also entering in the proper way. It's a guidance from the very beginning. That's required. How to enter. We talk at the end a little bit about entering marriage. Even though it's a huge topic, and I just want to summarize a few aspects from what from that presentation how to enter marriage, and then also refer to a bit more elaborate way, just briefly. That's at the very end. Entering in the proper way is the first step, and then at each step get guidance. Here, what's working, what's not working, all from the proper perspective of I am spirit soul. I want to get out of this crazy circumstances. I want to serve Krishna. I cannot waste my life with all this nonsense. Let's learn it quickly so we can engage in devotional service properly. In that way, with that proper attitude, and with devotional service as a goal, there is some motivation there to get it right. Because, like we mentioned before, the false ego needs to get purified. So if we don't get it right, there is not much purification there. Then it all depends on our ability to engage in devotional service. And our false ego may just be too big to wholeheartedly serve. Because we want to be served. We want to be the center of it all. But we are not. Krishna is. And we're meant to serve Krishna. If the false ego is too big, we're not serving Krishna. At the same time, it's possible. You just serve with sincerity, and you go back home, back to Godhead in this lifetime. But I would assume for most of us, we need a little bit more support. We need some crutches, and those crutches are the spiritual culture. Those crutches we receive in the ashram. It's shelter and purification. We need that shelter, and shelter means harmony. And without understanding those mechanics, there's no harmony. And without learning those mechanics from someone we trust, it takes us just too long. We're wasting so much time. So parampara is so important. And I got this realization, I can't remember how it went, but I was in Mayapur just getting Devaki Mataji's books, and I was hearing her lectures before and so on. And I had this idea, yes, parampara, why is that what is needed? Yes, support. Parampara. I came up with this, parampara. So I was expressing that to Mataji, to Devaki Mataji, and she just suggesting, why don't you collect, like those quotes, what girls hear from the grandparents, in Bangladesh, or from her mothers, just as tips for marriage. The grandmother Uvacha, the grandmother said, something like that. And she said, I'm just teaching principles, and what do girls in the Western world even care about what some Bengali grandmother has to say? So my false ego a little bit like, but I still, accept it. Of course, it's not relevant, because it's a different world, right? At the same time, we can learn from that. And we are in the National Society for Krishna Consciousness, right? So there are still areas which are more traditional. Eastern Europe is more traditional, maybe, I don't know, than some parts of the West. Then there's devotees from South India, where traditions are much more alive, or this art is this extended family, that culture. This is much more alive. Or areas like Bangladesh, India, Bollywood does its best to quickly catch up with the degradation of the West. I mean, there's not much time left to preserve certain jewels of advice. And then, obviously, we cannot copy one-to-one. We cannot live 100% like that. That's a fool's idea if someone proposes that. It doesn't work. We have to break the vicious cycle. That's all we can do in this lifetime. Do our little best and just save with basic things. Like I said, nothing box, nothing box, nothing box. I mean, it's the easiest thing because we have to practically do nothing on both sides. It's great. Nothing required. We just have to accept it. Right? It's easier said than done, right? But break that cycle. That's what we can do. And when we see, that's why I try to present this in such a way that we can see, all those advices, they will actually just deal with one of those mechanics I presented. Nothing box, trampling upon a snake, he wants to be the hero, his stupid ideas, like that. All those things, all those advices will be centered around those principles, somehow or other. Maybe I missed something. I don't know much at all, but it's just an attempt to present it from this whole topic from a different angle, so we can actually make it relevant to us. Even then, if we hear some Bengali grandmother say something which sounds a bit interesting to our material conditioning, but understanding those mechanics, we can, wait a minute, yes, it deals with that. And then we can translate that into our own context. But so again, it would be nice, and so we can, where we have communities from where devotees are from India are there, from the West are there, from Asia. There are also so many more traditional countries from Asia, which may not even have anything to do with Vedic culture or spiritual culture. But there's still good advice there, even though it's not coming from Vedic culture or so. And that advice may just be material, motivated. But nevertheless, it may help. If that advice is centered about getting those mechanics right, getting harmony into the relationship, understanding, okay, it's not about how I feel at the moment. Those feelings will change very quickly. So parampara. It requires humility to take advice. We're not very humble. Humility is more rare than gold. It's a very precious good. And for myself as well, I'm not very humble. So it requires quite some internal work to get to that point that we actually accept, yes, I need help. And then we have to get the right help. Right? But this is parampara. This is how the art, so we don't have to, not everyone has to reinvent everything. We don't want to reinvent the wheel every lifetime. No, we can give that to the next generation in that form of our own experience and sharing that. And especially when we do something wrong, it's very humbling to share. But even if we do it right, we have to do it with a humble heart. Otherwise, it's not accepted, and we may become proud and puffed up. Yeah, I did it all right. No. It's dangerous. Then we destroy everything again. We spoil it all. But this parampara is so important. Call it what you want. I call it Mataji parampara, but you can call it what you want. It's not really parampara if if you can just make it up from scratch, and then over time it grows to something. But how else would you want to call it? It's a kind of disciplic succession, generational succession, if you so want. Right? So that's how that art of being the false ego nurse. And again, it's not just husband and wife. Ladies are false ego nurses to other ladies. And that's almost more important. Because the duties of the wife are directly the purifying factor. I always had the impression, why are ladies not one, it seems like men, no one is qualified in Kali Yuga, right? Not talking about qualification, but it seems that ladies are men are more willing to perform their duties as a husband. Of course they are. It makes them thrive. Whereas the ladies' duties are directly purifying. So they need a whole army of nurses, not just one. You know, some people may think, oh, it's not fair. Right? It's all on the lady. Oh my God. What do you mean? You can have as many nurses as you need. Men only can have one nurse. And if she doesn't want to do her job, what can he do? I can now say, well, that's not fair, is it? No, it's not about that. Fair, whatever. It's all material nonsense. Let's just deal with reality and deal with it properly, and everyone gets its needs fulfilled. That's Krishna's system. No one is the loser in Krishna's system. We just have to know the art. Learn the art. And that will take quite some time till we have the art relearned. If you wait another generation, then India has caught up with it. Even South India and Bangladesh may catch up with the West, and there's nothing left, no trace left of that culture, of that parampara, of those nice advices mothers and grandmothers give, those nice stories they tell you. Those are little jewels. But we can, even in the West, without knowing anything, there are couples who do it right. By chance, maybe. They just did it right. Not even knowing the mechanics. Or understanding those mechanics. They just did it right. But knowing those mechanics makes it easier to spot. Easier to communicate. Oh yeah, nothing box, bang. Easy. Once we understand the principle, we can just say the word and, okay, I understand. But then the personal story makes it alive. That's what we need, to make those principles alive and relevant for us. If we don't understand the principle and we just hear some Bengali grandmother say something really important and nice, we won't even know how to connect it to our life, to our situation. But if we understand the principle, then even if a Bengali grandmother says something, it may become relevant. We may get some point out of there. Maybe not the whole lot, but we may be able to extract something for our own situation from that. So in that way, as an international society for Krishna consciousness, we can also benefit just from the wide resources we have, from the different experiences we have, from the different cultures we have, and because that's what's lacking in the West. I read once a nice article, and I've unfortunately failed to save it, about how culture can be completely destroyed within 3 generations. Within 3 generations, culture can be completely destroyed. And that's what we see today. When did it start? After World War II? Gone now. Gone completely. But then to re-establish culture, it takes a long, long time. It takes many, many, many generations. That's why Varnashrama Dharma takes probably 10 generations to establish, but we have to do the start. And just breaking the vicious cycle and restarting and trying to create support systems, schools for nurses, so to speak, will benefit us and benefit our children so much more. And like I said, when the children see how the older generation dealt with problems and that it works, like in the village, the young girl sees her older sister struggling, but then the struggle with the support of the entire village, the struggle turns out, her whole situation turns positive and the struggle ends. We get faith. We get the role models. We don't have role models. We have nothing of that sort nowadays. And we talk about that maybe later as well. This lack of role models. where should we get the faith from? We have to basically establish a whole culture based on faith, without science, without not the science, without the role models. It's not easy. So we cannot expect Varnashrama Dharma overnight or within this generation. No. Breaking the vicious cycle. And while we're breaking it, we get experience. And that little experience we get should increase our faith. And with that little bit more faith, we can maybe apply something else in our lives. And in that way, slowly transform our lives. Give a little bit better of a role model to our children. Teach children the principles of spiritual culture and all those mechanics and so on. And they can maybe apply a little bit more again, develop it a little bit more again, and then their children, over time, slowly and steadily, hopefully, they will continue the beneficial process of re-establishing and making that knowledge alive again. But it needs parampara. And again, it's the ladies' parampara. For the ladies, it's all about relationship. They are the most sensitive. And by that, false ego gets nicely purified for the men and for the ladies. The men have their nurses, the ladies have their nurses to do their duties, which is purifying them. And in that way, cooperating our way back home, back to Godhead. Because we all need those nurses to stay in the purificatory process. Obviously, again, devotional service. Without devotional service, all the purification of false ego is useless. We will discover that soon. But that's really such an important takeaway. Parampara. We have to create this support system. We all need our nurses. The wife is the nurse for the husband, and then she needs so many nurses for her to be capable of being the nurse to the husband, because it's quite challenging, especially because men are so slow. So I hope it makes sense. It's all understandable, and the way I present the whole topic. And now we go from the family or the village to the level of the whole society, to discover even more the greatness and superiority, so to speak, of mother of the ladies. And it becomes even more humbling for the men. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.